Hey, welcome to Rhythm Roast Cafe. It's Will here with Danny, Tom, and Nick here on April Fool's Day in the cafe. I think we're gonna have a fun episode here. I've been hearing a lot. Name keeps coming up. Someone that I didn't know, but you were all close friends with. Dan, do you want to tell us something about Crazy Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to do this in short segments because the history of Chicago rock and roll has a lot to do with Crazy Steve. Well, let's say he has a lot to do with that history. It's going to be, you're going to get little drips and driggles, just like Saturday morning Flash Gordon series back in the 80s and 70s. So I'm going to start out with how I met him. I met him at Circle Campus in 1970. And it was right after the Cambodian bombing episode. So what happened was across the city and part of the nation had these massive student revolts on campuses. Now the guys around me, except for Tom, wouldn't be old enough to really experience that. But
Did you take over buildings? Did you tie up janitors?
yes, they took over buildings, especially a Circle. Okay.
Did you tie up janitors?
No.
He's not saying they. He's saying you.
Me personally?
Yeah, statute
I'll-
of
I'll
limitations.
complain.
You know what I did personally? I went nose to nose with Dick Butkus. That's my biggest, bravest,
Dumbest.
offense, okay? And dumbest. He just looked at me and that's all, okay? I said, don't get involved with us.
I'm just trying to get a kind of a parallel between the anti-war protesters and what they did back in the 60s, 70s,
Right.
and what the protesters now are doing.
Well, we can go all the way back to the Tea Party.
I don't want to go back to the Tea Party.
Okay.
I want to stand who I see in your protest, but go ahead.
All right. Well, what happened with Crazy Steve was he was smart enough to understand that there was a student activity fund for every tuition. And tuition at Circle was $350 a quarter. Not much, okay? But $15 of that was given to Student Activities Fund, and it was itemized as SAF. So most people said, what the hell, it's $15, who cares, right? Steve looked into it and found out that you needed to have the student government president sign a check along with the bursar's office in order to get any of those funds for student activities. Now, what they were traditionally used for was the good old boys routine. Guys from Circle would invite the Milton Friedman from University of Chicago to come over and give a 2-hour lecture
For 12 people.
on fiscal flash or something like that, right? And you'd get maybe 20, 30 people in a 300 seat arena, and he'd get 25 grand for these 2 hours, okay? Steve looked at this, and I don't know how he got privy to it before he became student president, but he looked at it and he said, wow, what we could do with this money, right? So he ran on a platform of, I will bring music to the campus for free for you guys, okay? You'll have it at noon, and you'll have it on the weekends, okay? So you can bring your girls.
I think Milton Friedman might be a bit more enlightening, but who am I to say what should happen at a college, whatever.
Well, you had to be there, right? I mean, right at that was before trickle down.
So,
Okay, so he didn't get the bad rap back then. Okay.
so who was the first band that you recall him
Oh,
putting in?
him booking.
Oh, I think that we would know. Forget
I
like the
think.
local.
Well, he started out with the local bands.
Right.
He started out with Styx.
Okay, well, you know what I mean?
New Colony
Even I know
Six.
Styx.
Huh?
Even I know Sticks.
Young Buck knows Sticks.
Yeah, New Colony Six. That kind of Buckingham's, those kind
Right.
of bands.
So
And they played at the ballroom, which is next to the cafeteria at the student union. Well, the big shows he would put on for 5,000 seater at the Illinois Center, and that was a separate building, but it was attached to the student union. And for that one, he needed to hire cops under the requirement from the chancellor's office. So the cops were always very pleasant to work because they were getting triple time. Okay, they were getting all kinds of money, right?
Okay.
Because number one, you couldn't book a big show on a Tuesday night. You booked it on a Friday night, or a Saturday night, or a Sunday matinee. All of those days were triple time days for the cops, right? So the campus police were making out like crazy, and he would not sign off on a check from the bursar's office for some other academic to come over and get a stipend, you know, for doing a presentation here, unless the next check was for a band, okay, to come. So it was tit for tat, okay?
It was balance in the universe.
Yeah, it was very transactional, to put it in a modern conservative framework, right?
So and that's how you got. And that's how you started doing shows with Steve.
Well, what happened was Cambodia happened. The campus closed down. They took over the art and architecture building. Okay, that was the headquarters for the student government. Okay, so the student government then coordinated things with the student government from Northwestern and from University of Chicago, and then we started having communications back and forth. After the riots settled down and the classes started up again, Steve was in a great position. Okay, he was getting respect from the chancellor's department, you know, because they didn't want it. They thought of him as a leader. Okay, and he may have been, but nobody knew it, you know, except Steve.
Did Steve know it?
I don't even know if he thought of himself that way. He was never a narcissist, you know. So what he did is he started bringing in these bands. I think Jimi Hendrix was one of them. Big Brother was another band that he brought in. All these San Francisco acts that we'd only seen, you know, there was no internet, you know, and there was no real big proliferation of underground music on TV. So the only notice we had of these bands that he was pulling in from the West Coast and the East Coast was things like the Berkeley Barb, underground newspapers, the Berkeley Barb, the LA Free Press, the Greenwich Village Times, you know, things like that, you know, and then word of mouth. And so we would show up. Now you could go to the University of Illinois ballroom dance on a Friday night, show your ID, you got in for free. If you had a guest who wasn't from the school, they paid $5, okay?
Which was
This went on for a couple months. The major players in the university were having heart attacks because they saw their money being funneled away. They couldn't get the people that they wanted to get. If they couldn't get those people, that meant they couldn't go and reciprocate as a guest at another university. So we were hitting their pocketbooks without knowing that that's what he was doing. So they petitioned the chancellor in Urbana, which had rank over Chicago, to do something about it. So they got together with their lawyers and they said, well, you can get him on this. You know, he's charging. We're getting billed for so much money on stagehands and on security and all this other stuff, and you know, we're going to bill them and put them out of business that way. So they sent Steve this massive bill, and they said, this is what's going to happen. So he took out student activities fee, and he paid the bill, and then they put a kibosh to that. They said, you can't do that anymore. You got to, if you're going to put on the show, you got to pay for the show with the show you put on. So he sat around with us, and we all used to sit around in this group in the second floor lounge at the student union, and he was going, woe is me, what can I do? And I said, well, you know what, I sit at the table with all the Taylor Street Dukes. And he goes, yeah, so the Taylor Street Dukes was an Italian street gang, you know, and they were all displaced when the university came there, so they got free tuition and books as a result. They wanted to keep them nice. So I said, I talk to these guys all the time. I said, why don't we use them as security?
Well, so that solves your security thing, but then you still had to pay your stagehands and your cops and everybody else.
So he went to the legal department, okay, and found some students that were in pre-law. he asked them to look at the charter. Okay, so they examined the charter, and there was nothing in the charter that said that Steve couldn't hire his own stagehands. He didn't have to use the union stagehands that the school was using.
I'm careful, you're going to upset Tom.
Oh, Tom would have done that. He didn't have to use the union spotlight operator, which is
Scabs, right?
$87. No, he put it under the guise of, we are learning. This is the universe. This was the new.
If they want to learn, they should become apprentices in a trade.
There we go.
A bunch of finky.
Anyway, so that's how Steve got started.
Yeah, he got started. So then all of a sudden, one of the people that was in Crazy Steve Productions ended up knowing Jerry and Arnie, well, specifically Jerry. And Jerry Jerry knew this guy named Jan Wynn. Okay, Jan Wynn was a promoter who was tied up with a Greek guy named Belisarius. And he wasn't the Belisarius who
The
reconquered
Roman general.
Rome. Okay. He was a Greek
About Stilchio.
He was a Greek promoter from
For those of you who don't know who Jerry and Arnie are, Jerry Michelson and Arnie Granite were the principals at Jam Productions that were
Right.
the major concert promoter
The
in
major
Chicago
one at the
for 70 something to probably about 5 to 10 years ago. If not, they're still going around, but
Yeah.
not to the extent that
I
they
think
used to
Jerry
be.
is Arnie's in a different field.
Right.
But yeah, Jerry's dad was part of Rudnick and Wolf,
Rudnick and Wolf.
which is a big law firm, you know. So
Yeah.
so he had a lot of pull, you know. So Jerry knew this guy Jan Wynn, and Jan Wynn had no production company, but he was splitting off of Belisarius, who was out of Milwaukee. And he put on, Belisarius was the one who promoted the Milwaukee Fest. The big,
Right.
you know, big
Right.
big thing in the
Chicago
summer.
Fest up
Right.
north.
Right. And
Or Taste of Chicago now.
so he started doing shows at the Aragon, Jan Wynn, but he had no crew. So Michelson told him, I got a crew. Okay, his crew was Crazy Steve's crew. Michelson took everybody that Crazy Steve was using over at Circle Campus. He took the stagehands, he took the spotlight operators. The security was the number one thing, because Jerry came in saying that he would run the security for Jan Wynn, and he did. Jerry and Arnie sat in the boxes, stage left, you know, and hand gestured to me, who was stage left on the floor, what they wanted me to do, you know, and I took over from there. Fred Ordauer was involved in it as well, and also a guy named Ken Voss. You know, anyway, we started doing shows at the Aragon, and I want this one little show. I know you don't like me to talk, but there's this one little anecdote everybody will like. One of the first shows we did, I had to split the crew up because we had 2 shows on the same night. We had the Jefferson Starship over at the Aragon, and at the same time, we had the Bay City Rollers over at the Erie Crown. Now, for a lot of people who don't know who the Bay City Rollers are, they were a TV Saturday morning teenage girl throb group. They were like,
from England.
yeah, they were like the Monkees, only younger. Okay, and then
They wore baggy calypso pants.
right. So I got this call.
How do you remember that?
Well, I used to read Cream magazine.
Got it. They're very popular with the teenage girls and Tom. Got it.
Yeah. So I get this call on my repeater on the radio, because we have radios that had repeaters. We could hear any cross town. I'm at the Aragon. I hear Mike going, "Help! Send men! Lots of men!" You know, and I'm going, "What?" I gave him the B crew. I gave him the crew
At Bay
that-
City.
Yeah, over at
Right.
you know, because Bay City Rollers. They're 13 years old. What problem could you have, right? And I said, "What problems do you have?" And he said, "We can't stop the girls." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "They overwhelmed us and took the stage. 10-year-old girls overwhelmed. They were armed with flash cameras." And I said, "Okay." They would flash us And then their mothers would come behind them and say, "Don't you touch my daughter." You know, first we wouldn't see anything, and then we were stopped from manhandling the girls by irate mothers. You know.
So the
from-
legend of Crazy Steve was born
Yeah, well, that
out of
out of that, you know,
UIC
so Steve
Student Fund.
Steve decided that from now on we need a woman crew, okay, especially for that stuff, you know. So then we started recruiting women. We never had a problem again. Never. We had boys to men,
Menudo.
women.
I remember
Menudo, women.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, when we did Woodstock, the overnight version of the bands that played were mostly softer music bands. All my women took the stage at Woodstock for the overnight
That
stuff.
was Woodstock 2, by the way.
Woodstock too.
By the way.
'94
Right.
actually. Yeah.
Right. So.
Okay, so
All right, so you wanted to describe us this program as join us. This is Danny's words. Join us every Tuesday at 7 at Central.
That's
as
good. That's
the
what we're on.
Boomers take on the attorneys over hot button items. Okay, first of all,
yeah,
I'm a boomer. I was born in '59.
yeah, but you're both.
What do you mean I'm both?
Well, you could be.
Well, I mean I can be a boomer and an attorney. I guess I can, but
Yeah.
that's and why do you take on? Why are we taking on people? We're here to have like a nice, open, friendly discussion about
We
the
take on the
differences between-
challenge. The
Okay.
challenge, okay? Because he's going to show us right now what the challenge is for tonight, right?
I said talking to you can be challenging. I agree. I agree.
Well, getting a word in on Danny can be a challenge.
Yeah, no, I hate sharing a frame with him because I'm just sitting here smiling, nodding like an idiot. He's like, yeah, you know, the base of your role is like, oh, why do I keep nodding? I have no idea what these things are.
The man with no period. He has no period when he talks.
That makes me a full man and not a woman.
Wow, it's 25.
That's-
25.
Depends on who's the definition, but go ahead.
No, today, you know, I thought we might want to talk about, you know, a lot of crazy stuff's going on with Tesla. We got, you know, vandalism, attacks in the streets happening. Obviously, Elon Musk himself, the CEO, is getting very involved in the federal government, which is sparking all this. I was wondering, you know, what have you guys seen? What are your opinions on sort of how this has started to devolve into kind of, you know, the public, into street violence, whatever you want to call it? I call it domestic terrorism. I don't know if you guys agree with that label.
You know, these people aren't dangerous. The people that were dangerous were the UAW people that took over factories and fought with the cops, fought tooth and nail with the cops in the 1930s.
And the old liberals.
These students, like the baby boom, you were talking about the anti-war movement. They weren't anti-war; they were anti-draft.
Yes.
Once they knew they weren't going to get drafted, they were in with every war that's been fought since. And the people that were smoking pot and had long hair turned into union busters and hedge fund managers. You know, but they were big liberals when they were in college. Assholes.
That's an interesting perspective. I've never really heard that coming from somebody that's a part of that generation. That they were, a lot of those people weren't concerned about anybody else's, but they were concerned about their own.
You know, the baby boomers were the first people that took comic books, gym shoes, and short pants into adulthood.
Yeah, well, you forgot.
Did you ever see your father walking around in gym shoes and short pants and reading comic books?
The lunchboxes too.
Yeah. I got $10,000 from my Roy Rogers lunchbox.
It's funny because a lot of what I see in terms of these protests that are going on, especially with Tesla, and some of these people that are doing this stuff are violent. Okay, they're firebombing, they're causing all kinds of problems. But I've noticed, and you know, some of these people, I think they realize by now that Tesla has cameras. So anytime you go to key them, they get a nice video of you doing it. Mm-hmm. But you see the people that are doing it, and it's not 18, 20, 25-year-olds. It's people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. I saw a college professor from the University of Michigan that just walking along keying a Tesla, and it's like, did you guys run out of stuff to protest about?
Well,
it just seems like they still need to do something.
You're not harming Musk. You're harming some guy that bought a Tesla.
Right.
And he's
He
most
probably
people
bought it
on
5
here
years
probably
ago.
a liberal, like my daughter
When
and
does
her
the-
husband.
How long does an American hold onto a car for
They
average?
have
Like
to-
5 to 7 years
I-
usually?
Can you tell the
Life
difference?
years.
I'm the anomaly. I hang on till the bolts start falling out of.
I do
the
the same
cartoon.
thing. I will drive my cars into the ground, but
Yeah.
like,
But
no,
some
you're
guy
right.
comes out and his car gets keyed. What that doesn't do anybody any good. The best way to hurt Musk is don't buy a Tesla. Tesla and tell
And
your
don't go
friends.
on X.
And don't go on X and just don't do business with the
But
guy. You know.
I get sometimes to be.
Is that a conservative point of view? Just don't do business with the guy, right?
Well,
Yeah, right, it's a lot better than, wasn't I saw in Arizona some lady got cut off in traffic and the dude started punching her through the window. I'm like, yeah, if you're gonna do something, boycott. Don't attack the random woman in Arizona who's just trying to drive to work.
some
no.
70-year-old woman got her. Is that the one in
Yeah.
Arizona that got beat?
I saw.
I mean, listen. When the conservatives didn't like the whole Bud Light and the transgender person that they had promoted,
yeah, Dylan Mulvaney.
what did they do? They just stopped buying
just
Bud
stopped
Light,
buying it.
and then everybody in the marketing department got fired, and now Bud Light is on this whole new campaign to kind of get back the crowd that they lost. They didn't start firebombing Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah,
it
okay.
cancel culture though?
No, I would draw a distinction.
Yeah.
So my main distinction with cancel culture is typically the way I draw the line is if someone does something stupid, if someone does something wrong, like now, and I respond to it, fine. Cancel culture was going back and finding something someone posted on like Facebook when they were 16, 17, and now they're like a 35-year-old attorney and being like, well, you know, you're out. It's no, like standards change over time for one, and two, people grow, people develop. So
Cancel culture cost the Democrats one of their best senators. The guy from
Al
Minnesota.
Franken?
Yeah,
Al Franken.
yeah. For something he did when he was young and dumb.
No, it wasn't. He was.
You know,
he thought he was being a comedian. And
Yeah, he was
doing-
being a comedian.
wasn't he a comedian or
He
like
was
a
a
comic book
comedian.
artist or something?
Yeah, he was a comedian. He was
a
on
writer.
Saturday Night Live and
Saturday
everything.
Night Live, right?
But he was a sharp guy. He was articulate, and he could make a good argument, and we lost
What
him.
was his shtick? I'm smart enough. I'm good enough, and he taught. That was his. The lead into his.
Well, yeah, I'm fine with it though because I think that sometimes the left they get kind of blind with rage and they cannibalize their own in this fury. So yeah, get rid of Al Franken. I'm fine with it.
But
a
on
lot of these
the other
people-
hand, cancel culture, like if somebody does act like a jerk, then there's consequences for that. You have to
Yeah.
take responsibility for if people just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore because you did something that they don't like. I
Well,
mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, again, I think there's a big difference between do something you don't like and did something you don't like is the one. And two, sometimes I think that you can, I wouldn't call this cancel culture, but sometimes the reactions can be overboard.
I mean,
You could way over respond to
Well,
something.
well, we're
yeah,
part of
doesn't
that
mean you're a
gener-
bad guy.
we're part of that generation that didn't have cameras everywhere we went.
Right.
So I mean, think
Well,
back.
you gotta
think
watch
back,
it.
Think back of like all the stuff that you may have done back then, and you went like, "Ooh, I'm glad."
There wasn't
and-
somebody or a camera putting you on YouTube.
Right.
You have no idea the trepidation I had when I did Ancestry.com because we were active a long time before birth control pills. And
Oh God.
I was just waiting for some 50-year-old guy to knock on my door. Dad, I've been in Louisiana for the last 50 years. Where are you?
There's a couple of stories out there that's happened.
No, I'm
people
sure.
People do their DNA test, and all of a sudden, they find their father living in another town, and some of them turn out nice, and some of them don't. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, an old colleague who he's pretty liberal, and I said, why is it that it seems like the liberals nowadays they're either screaming, they're destroying, or they're singing. Okay, that's all I see. That's all they seem to do when they're protesting. They're either busting stuff up, okay, or they're screaming, or they got a guitar and they're just playing something that's like, what are you doing? I don't get it.
What do you want them to do when they're protesting?
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
He wants him to look like Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys with the hat and defecate on the floor.
there's a way to protest without being destructive.
Ethan
Okay.
Allen put his sword to the British commander's fort, and he said, "I claim this fort in the name of the Great Jehovah and the Continental Congress." When he captured Fort Ticonderoga from the 3 British that were character.
And for you out there, that's a free bit of information. Okay, right?
Jehovah and the Continental. Ethan Allen.
No,
You know, getting back to the Tesla thing, here's a guy that the right or the left revered this guy 7 years ago.
Yeah.
He was the cat's meow. He was going to save our planet, and everybody's going to do the electric car thing. And now he's the biggest piece of garbage on the face of the earth compared to these people.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that their concern, this great global concern about global warming and our entire
Was
ecosystem
trumped.
is now a second thought. They couldn't care a dime more
I agree with you.
about any of that, which goes to show that they're really not. It's really not a.
Well, a lot of
wait a minute.
a
There's
lot of people
Paul
are
Harvey to that.
Yeah, that's not an either or thing. There's people that are against the guy because of what he's been doing lately. And there's a reaction to that. And before he was acting like this, before Musk was getting political and trying to buy elections in Wisconsin and stuff like that. People say, "Oh, he's weird," but he's doing some good thing. But now he's doing something they don't like, and so they don't
So
like
what
him
is it?
anymore.
So what is it?
Yeah,
that
but
you
now,
guys-
now you're gonna set a car with a 800-pound lithium battery on fire. So it's not saving the environment. Who knows what gas?
Well,
is
no,
putting
I'm
out
not
there.
saying, but I mean, people don't
Yeah,
like
sure.
my daughter will never buy another Tesla,
Okay.
right? I mean, that's the proper reaction. And
Artists won't buy another
I
you
Tesla.
thought that
know,
was
and you're
interesting.
painting with a broad brush,
I thought that was interesting. So I've seen people claim that he's doing all this. He's working with Trump because he wants to try to sell more Teslas to Republicans. I was like,
No.
if that was his plan, that was the dumbest idea ever. Because
No.
I like him. I like Doge. I like a lot of things he's doing. I'm not buying an electric car. Probably ever.
Well,
I'm not.
is the anti-electric car thing still a big thing with
Yeah, that's the
conservatives?
problem.
No,
When you
I
talk
don't-
about
I just think it's a practice.
liberals
I don't have a
flipping.
desire for one.
How about
Yeah.
conservatives?
What?
All we heard before he gave him $150 million, all we heard was that EVs suck. And that, I mean, we have guys like Keith that would put meme after meme of Tesla's exploding, Tesla's running out of fuel and not being able to go any place.
Here's my take on the whole.
Conservatives did that, not liberals.
But listen.
And then all of a sudden he peels out 150 million. Oh, he's a great guy.
Trump says that, but I don't know any conservatives who flip their opinion of electric cars. Like most of the ones I know who are like, yeah, okay, maybe they like that they're fast or something. Still like them. Most of the conservatives I know by a large margin are still like, yeah, like Musk is cool now, but I still don't want to buy an electric car. I still like to burn gas.
and I've said this before. I don't have a problem with an EV.
What do
If it
you
is-
guys think out there? We want to hear.
I don't have a problem with EVs unless they become affordable and reliable. And they're not affordable and they're not reliable. And until that time, I'm going to continue to drive what I drive because, in the big scheme of things, our country is probably leading in climate change and that whole industry. But if the rest of the world isn't going to get on board with it, you're really not going to put a big dent.
the Chinese
Put a
are-
big dent in
Yeah,
global
it's
warming
Chinese
because
are-
it is called global for a reason.
Well,
it's
yeah,
the same atmosphere that's over India and China
Right.
as is over us.
The
Sure.
Chinese are I don't know. Musk's biggest problem might be the Chinese.
It might be.
Because from what I read and see, they have some really, really good electric cars over there.
But they're the
Yeah.
biggest polluters on the planet as well.
Well,
And
Yeah,
I'm
they're
talking
burning
about
coal to
Musk's
generate their electricity. It's not great. for the
problem.
environment.
It really
It's
is.
a
I mean-
business problem.
where are you getting electricity from?
You can get it from the sun.
Where are you getting a majority of your
You can get
electricity
it from the wind.
You can get it from there. If you took
You're
all the
getting- you're
windmills
getting
in
it
the
from-
world,
You're getting it from
they
coal
would-
and natural gas.
most of the time. Exactly.
That's where you get.
It's
You're
like
getting it
from
from coal and
combustibles.
natural gas. More
It comes from
natural gas.
combustibles.
I drive-
coal.
I drive a hybrid.
A hybrid.
Okay, it gets my first
So-
34 miles are electric. After that, it converts to gas. Okay, so what I could do is I could go to what is it, True Value or any fucking hardware store, and get myself two panels, 400-watt panels of solar panels, stick them in my backyard on a slant so that I can have them chase the sun east and west, north and south, put it in an inverter, charge my battery up overnight, okay, run for 34 miles for free, okay, and if I wanted to get the rest of my electricity, I could just expand that unit, okay, and it would cost me, I believe, 20 grand right now to be ground loaded, without putting it on your.
So do you budget for a battery? Because I didn't hear that in your list. I think it might be hard to charge your car overnight without one.
Well, no, you can charge your car, if you use the 220, you can charge your car in 2 hours.
Yeah, no,
For
but
your
I'm saying with
34
your
miles.
solar panels,
For your
you're going to need a
34
battery.
miles.
Well, no, the
that's
solar panels have to feed that battery, and they go
Yes,
a long
okay,
time.
yes.
Okay, but then once they've got the battery fully charged, the battery can discharge
Can
at
discharge on the
220.
car, yeah.
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 Supposedly,
they ain't
this,
working for a guy like me.
This one Chinese company, it's 3 letters, BYD or something. But I was watching a guy talking about it, and they have their technology is now surpassing Tesla's technology. According to this guy.
I'm always skeptical about any claims coming out of China, though. I'm sure they've said some impressive things, but I'm always skeptical.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
not to diverge too much, but Ukraine has a large deposit of lithium.
Well, that's why this deal that Trump was trying to cut with the Ukraine
Was for the lithium.
was for the
Rare earth
was-
process.
Right.
Right.
What's the
Correct.
other one? I think they have neon gas, too, which
He
they
didn't
need
want
to
to
make
say
all
lithium.
microprocessors.
He said rare earth.
Right.
But mostly it's lithium. Now, who would benefit from lithium deposits more than anyone in the world? What country?
Right. Not us.
Yeah.
If I
China,
was
maybe.
Zelensky, I'd go to China. I'd ask China to come in and.
Hey, it's going to be us or China.
You
But
know?
I don't know. China,
They have a lot of it.
where
too.
else do they have lithium? Because China's got
China
a lot
has
of
a lot.
roots
Africa.
thrown down in Africa,
Africa.
with their Belt and Road Initiative. So
And then supposedly
needs
we have potential for a lot of it out west,
So
but that's government land.
Yeah, Otis though wrote that
And
they're working on a sodium
Yeah.
battery that's going to put lithium on the shelf.
I heard they have a hydrogen battery that
Well, I don't think it's a battery; it's a
a
hydrogen engine.
hydrogen engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting back to
Tesla.
Tesla and to Elon. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think this guy, and I haven't really paid too much attention to him until recently, to be honest. I think he's probably one of our generational's great minds. Okay, I mean, the guy is absolutely brilliant in what he's done and how he's done it.
Okay.
All right, number one. But number two is the sudden hate is because of not what he's doing, it's because of who he's doing it with, and that's
No.
what you have a
I
problem.
disagree with that 100%. You want to know why those old people were in the demographics for vandalizing his cars?
Sure.
Social Security.
He hasn't touched Social
He
Security.
has involved himself in it.
It doesn't. He hasn't done
The
anything.
perception is he's gonna cut it.
But
He's
he
gonna chop
hasn't.
it. He's gonna take that chainsaw and trim
See,
it down.
That's just.
Well, that's what all us old folks think.
Because that's
well,
what you're
let's
being
react
fed.
immediately. Let's just
Yeah.
freak out and start attacking.
Well,
people.
yeah, but
some of them will.
But we get to hate
Probably
them.
shouldn't.
We don't get to attack stuff.
You
but
can
we
be
get-
upset about it. You can be worried
And
about
listen,
it.
get to
I
hate
think
him.
you're jumping the gun a little bit. Because like Nick said, he hasn't done anything
Yeah.
yet.
Well, I think he would probably like to get rid of Social Security, but Trump is a better politician.
Well, we're going to
Well,
get rid of
I
it.
think-
Eventually.
I
I'm
think-
never getting Social Security. I'll tell you right now.
Why?
It's going to be bankrupt. There's no way. Our
It
population's
won't be
shrinking.
bankrupt.
But my point is, do you really do you think there's no room for evaluating Social Security? There was an episode of Shameless 6 years ago, and the whole plot was that Frank had been cashing his aunt's Social Security check when she'd been dead for like 3 years. Yeah,
or
5
something,
years.
yes.
Maybe we do a little bit of evaluation. Make sure
Well,
there's none of that
I
going
don't
on.
take my
I'm fine with
opinion of
something else.
Social Security from a television show.
No, but you think that never happens?
It's been sure it happens. You're gonna get
Okay,
rid
so
of it
it's fine
because
then. No. I'm saying let's find those cases and root them out.
well, sure.
Okay.
How much is
I
it going
agree.
to cost to find the cases? Do you
Yeah,
remember
well,
the
there's that too.
in the 1970s, this country went into a big efficiency deal. That's when all the efficiency experts started to become popular.
Okay.
They had this guy named McGregor. Did you ever hear of him?
No, I do like how you said, "Do you remember?" about something that happened before I was born.
I'm sorry. McGregor was a big deal in the business
Sure.
world. He fashioned Japanese economy after World War II.
Do you remember
Okay.
Alfred the
Okay.
Great?
Yeah. So
I remember Charlemagne.
what he had was a program called Management by Objectives.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard of that, MBO. Okay, and Management by Objectives said you take a team, a small team in your production company, whatever company you're in, and you get them together with a supervisor. You go weekly in these 1 or 2 hour meetings, and you talk over production issues, personnel issues, job issues.
Right.
It goes upwards to the manager who's with you and your group, and then it comes downwards, and the manager says to you, how would you like to fix this? What are the goals? So you'd make goals. You know, the team would say, we're going to hit this production goal of this if you do this for us, manager. And then if we hit this production goal, you're going to give us an increase in pay. So that was the incentive. And that's how it worked for a while. And then it didn't. Okay, it just stopped working. It started
Wait,
costing
wait.
more money.
It stopped working. Why?
It's because people just didn't care. They got to a certain point, they didn't care about making goals for themselves to make more money. They were happy where they were at. And that was it. Okay? And
So-
motivation has always been the problem. I think
Okay, but you're talking about it sounds like you're talking about a lot of the private sector. When
There
you're,
is
when you're talking about government, you're talking about taxpayer money that is used to fund and fuel all of this. Okay? And you have people that are making arbitrary decisions on what money goes where. Now, my understanding is Doge has a website. You can go to their website and you can see everything that they're doing. They are very transparent. Okay? This is not a new idea. Okay? When Obama was president, Obama put Joe Biden in charge of, they didn't call it Doge, but he was in charge of rooting out waste, narrowing government efficiency, getting rid of the dead weight, and all the other stuff that was going along with it. Okay? Well, we all know about how efficient Joe was. But the point of the matter is each administration. But okay, Joe didn't do anything as vice president, and he didn't do anything as president. But be that as it may.
He did a lot of things as vice
Yeah,
president.
He did, but
He
They
did
weren't- they
course
weren't in
Ukraine
Europe.
into firing a prosecutor that's investigating his son's
He
company
did
that's
things.
on the board of.
And he went to the
things
beach.
in my interest. He did a lot of good things for union people.
Okay.
And then and the Democrats didn't get the word out there, which was stupid.
That's fine. UAW is pretty happy with Trump right now, but maybe that's a topic for next
Well,
week.
sure, because he's working in their interest.
Auto
But
tariffs.
again, the point is past administrations have wanted to do the same thing. They
they
came
don't
in
talk about it.
because they came at it from a politician's, I believe, from a politician's perspective and a politician's approach. They didn't come at it from a business approach like Trump has and like Musk has, who run pretty efficient. At least Musk runs a pretty efficient program.
Didn't Bush have a business? A bunch of businesses. Him and
Bush
Enid
Jr.
They were
Bush
big
Jr. trades away
businessmen.
Sammy Sosa. All right,
See,
like
you
don't
know,
take any business.
But see,
Man, Jesus. You were talking as if we've never had a businessman
supposed
for
to be
president.
efficient.
What's that?
A government isn't necessarily supposed to be efficient. It has a different goal.
Wait a minute.
You know,
Well,
like how come
But it's
they're laying
better
off
if it is.
people? How come they're laying off people from tax people? You know, they're laying them off.
Exactly.
So nobody's gonna. It's gonna be harder to audit people that are cheating.
That audit
They
that he
have-
never had finished.
They
mean,
have
also-
plenty of staff to audit
Do they?
large business people. Yeah, the billionaire. How many billionaires are in the country? A couple thousand? There's tens of thousands of IRS agents.
You were in the industry.
Yes.
You know that
I was
that
a
the
tax
audit-
collector,
Right.
folks.
So you know that auditing the little guy doesn't really get you too much. The auditing the big guys is where
When
it's all-
I quit in
I know.
1988. In 1988, I worked with the
sorry.
IRS guys, and their paradigm was that they couldn't go after anybody in an audit if they didn't think they were going to get at least 10 grand. as a result of the audit.
That number's got to be way higher now.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was 1980.
Right.
Okay. 88 actually. And so yeah, they first had to do a preliminary assessment and then go from there. Now, on the other side of it, the Illinois, they didn't give a shit. You go over you go after everybody. And they sent me in the west side of Chicago to collect cash money from bars. West side bars, okay? Now, for you that live in California, west side of Chicago is not my color. And I had to go in, and they sent me in because they said I look like a mafia guy, and I would blend right in because the folks out there deal with the mafia all the time. And that was their perception. These were my bosses from the Illinois Department of Revenue. All right, so I went in there and I did that, and I dressed like a plumber. Okay,
We got
plaid
anything
shirt,
interesting? We got anything interesting
Thank
coming
you for
in
the
on
story,
the
Danny.
chat?
Yeah, we did have a few people chime in today in the episode. For one, we had Arthur asking, what does Hunka Burnin love mean?
There's a giant hunk of burning Tesla wreckage on the side of the highway.
It's a burning Tesla, and it's a tribute to Elvis Presley.
We had a few comments here from David chiming in. He started off with, agree with Nick, reliability and cost are not issues that I have with it. He also, a few people chimed in here about batteries and the production of them, kind of some new different types of batteries. Looks like John said, we need new battery technology. Bio batteries can theoretically be made by cloning electric eel cells and feeding your battery garden scraps.
Ooh,
We had
That's wild.
Jordan chime in.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Mr. Fusion.
Are we still recording?
Yeah, absolutely.
great.
So, talking
I
to
like,
the
talking to the
the
people.
reason that you need a new phone every so often, mine is ancient, my kids are screaming at me to get a new one, is the battery technology cannot keep up with the computer technology. That's always been the problem. And
well, your
that's still the
battery
problem.
wears over time. One of the things I like is they're working with graphene batteries now. So it's still a lithium battery, but they put a graphene lattice across it. And graphene, it's like like diamond.
It's
Diamonds
like a
are
lubricant.
no. So diamonds are like carbon in a triangular pattern. Graphene is a hexagonal lattice of just pure carbon, and basically can transmit electricity all across the length of the battery, and then charge the whole battery evenly and quickly. But it basically, you can charge up your phone much shorter time. Don't keep it charged, plugged in, just overcharging constantly. Greatly increase the life of your battery, increase charging time. So yeah, no, battery technology is definitely something we can benefit from.
Right, it can't keep up with the rest of the technology. This is the way it was put to me by a guy that owns a cell phone company,
Yeah.
a cell phone store.
Moore's Law.
You can't keep up with it.
I can't
And-
keep
and-
up with a phone. Every time I wake up, they changed it overnight, and I can't find my photographs anymore.
I got
These are
one-
very different problems.
I got one final comment.
Wi-Fi.
I got one final comment
All right.
on Tesla. Okay. The destruction of private property is illegal. Okay, and I'm not for it, and those people should be punished. Are you a patriot? You consider yourself a solid patriot? How about you?
I like to think I am.
Okay, how
You might
about
have
I
a
feel like
defi-
you're
but
leading.
you might have a definition of what a patriot is. But go ahead, we'll
I'm
get
being
there.
Socratic, okay?
All right.
I'm using the Socratic method. You guys should know this.
Stay in your
already.
lane, will you Italian?
Right.
But you're from Sicily.
Okay, the next stipulation, if you will, the next stipulation is, what did you think people like Paul Revere and Samuel Adams, were good patriots, upstanding American citizens?
I don't see. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I have no reason to believe they were.
Both of them
Okay.
were involved in the destruction of $1.7 million worth of tea in the Boston Harbor. It was called the Tea Party. Okay, those were the two ringleaders that took a bunch of patriots onto those three ships and took what was it, 3 tons of tea,
Right.
and threw
And it was owned by the
private-
East India Trading Company. Guess what? They broke one piece of American property. They cut the lock on the gate. They
Yeah.
reimbursed the harbor master for it because he was an American.
Right.
Well, guess what? These people are destroying American cars. That's my counter argument.
Whose government was in charge?
The British.
Okay, so they're breaking British law, their law.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, they're just the same.
Yeah, if people were, vandalizing Hondas, I wouldn't take the patriotism.
I love it when
I
they
still don't
squeal.
like it.
No,
The British were were right during our revolution, and we had really no business revolting against them. They just sent 27,000 very expensive regular troops to save us from the French and Indians, and they wanted us to help pay for it.
Pay for it. The same thing that the revolutionary government in Italy wanted the Italians.
Actually, the
Disagree.
British were being.
Brendan, we have more comments.
The
Anything
British
else
were,
going on
were
there?
being pretty
Yep.
reasonable.
You guys got one from Jordan that came in that said,
Hey, Jordan.
I could not disagree more about Doge. The inefficiency of firing, then hiring, and no transparent analysis before making moves that are doing a lot of damage to a lot of folks, and unknown domino effects.
Well, Jordan, we're going to try to get you in here next week. I know you have a scheduling problem. If you're able to do it, though, we'd be more than happy to have you here. Bring your guitar.
Yeah, I'll argue with Jordan next week. Sounds fun.
Nephew shows. If we
So,
get him here.
who's the host next week?
I don't know.
You?
No, I'd say let's.
Or you're cutting it
I'd
off?
say let's wrap the show up and we can
Yeah,
discuss
we'll
it.
figure it out next week.
All right, let's.
Uh,
Well, we
they-
enjoyed you guys. At least some of you talked to us. Next week, make sure you have your keypad in front of you and start texting, because we're stimulated when you text us or when you chat with us.
If there's something you want to talk about, give us an idea. We'll be more than happy to put it on our agenda and throw it out there.
If you have a new local band that you think we ought to listen to, send us a link. You know, that's the rhythm part of Rhythm Roast Cafe. So,
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
yeah, subscribe. It costs you nothing.
Who could ask for anything more?
So on behalf of the troops here, me and Nick would like to say, good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Good night, everybody.